What the hell is going on?
Hey, you! Yeah, you wanna know who the best agents in the game are right now, brother?
What? Why are you in my room? Who are you?
That don't matter, no. Get the f*** up. We got agents to put in tier lists. Ooh, yeah.
What? What are you talking? Oh, okay, fine. Just leave. Get out of here, please.
Alright, I'll leave, but you better put Viper in S tier this time, brother. I'll be back.
Did he just say he's gonna be back? What? I don't have time for this. I need to go get locked after this video, so let's just get this over with. Hey guys, welcome back to SkillCapped. My name is Jack, and today, like that dude said, we're going to be ranking the best agents in Valorant as of patch 2.04, with help from high-level players as well as statistics from both high-level pro tournaments and your average ranked lobbies. We'll start in the D tier with the worst agents in the game, and work our way up to the coveted top spot in the overpowered tiers. There's some surprises in here for sure, so if you're looking for a one-stop snapshot of the current Valorant meta, then you won't want to miss out on this one. Our question of the day before we get too deep is going to be really in line with our current topic. I'd like to see your guys' personal tier list for agents in those comments down below. Go S through D tier and include an overpowered tier if you think there's an overpowered agent. I'm just curious to see how your guys' lists will differ from our own, so leave them down below and let's get that good discussion going. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how we do tier lists around here, we're going to start with this blank list on your screen and slowly but surely fill it up from the lowest tier to the best tier so as to not spoil what's going on in the tiers above. Our first tier is the D tier, and we quantify the D tier as a tier where agents within it are not worth playing in any serious match, and should not be picked with the expectation of helping you win your matches. This time around, we only have one D tier agent, and it's the same as in our previous tier list from 2.03. It's Yoru. Yoru was a hot take selection in our previous list, but as time has gone on, it's very clear that Yoru isn't just the worst agent in Valorant. I would go so far as to say that he offers zero unique value to a team in any way. Unlike other underused or underpowered agents like Skye or Viper, spoiler warning, Yoru doesn't even occupy a niche unique to him that's worth using. Listen, let's just talk stats for a second. Let's talk the numbers. In the recent VCT Challenger Stage event in North America and Europe, Yoru was picked 5 total times. These are both 128 team open qualifier tournaments, and 3 of those times were by the same European team. This has to be satire. This European team is called Rejects Gaming, and I wish that name was a coincidence. And even though his existence in the pro scene is much like my own, even in regular ranked, Yoru is the least picked agent in the game. Courtesy of Blitz.gg, we can see the pick rates of the users who use this program, and we got representation of all ranks here. And boys, it's not good. To see any kind of pick rate north of 1%, you gotta go down to Iron, which is not good. I hate to beat on Yoru so bad here, but he's just a purposeless agent. I would go so far as to say that Yoru needs a top-down rework to actually have a reason to ever use him. He's basically the Symmetra of Valorant, and that's just not a good thing to be. And if you don't want your individual game to wind up like Yoru in terms of viability, then head to skillcapped.com to get access to all the best tips, tricks, and guides to help you master Valorant like the pros. Whether you want to dominate the leaderboards like Wardell, or be the best clutch player in the world like Hiko, get started on getting the rank you've always wanted at the link down below today. Moving on to C tier, these agents can be useful and even have fantastic niches in some cases, but the general cost does not warrant those benefits. Simply put, there are many agents above these that do more and fill the same niche that these agents do. Our C tier this time around starts off with a perennial C tier veteran, Skye. Skye is a confusing case. I feel like she's one badly executed buff from being an utter nightmare to play against, a la old school Breach, but in her current state, she's good, but like, why take her over Sage for healing, Breach or Phoenix for flashing, and Sova for scouting? She's got full-blown jack of all trades, master of none syndrome in the worst way, where she can do everything and be a Swiss Army knife agent, but she doesn't do them well enough to warrant them over the specializations of the above agents compared. I mean, she's alright in terms of pro pick rate, right around 10%, which reflects her niche but effective role, but in average competitive lobby she tracks much lower, around 1 to 3%. And I think that mainly comes down to her being an awful solo queue option, kinda like Breach but not really, where they both shine with good team coordination, which is never guaranteed in those situations. I would also say that her kit can be annoying to use sometimes. Her Fox drone can get stuck on stuff all the time, same thing with her Hawk flashes, and her ultimate is just straight useless in my opinion. Now, at the risk of putting myself in danger from that dude way back in the intro, Viper is in fact not an S tier agent in Valorant. Yet. She's still where she's been forever now, C tier. Viper over and over shows herself to be quite good when someone dedicates their entire career to mastering what Viper does well, which is kind of the problem. You can't just flex pick a Viper. You can't just tell your Omen, hey man, just play Viper, it'll be sick. Like, you need to be in the lab, studying the way of the 1001 ways, and hope to align your chakras into true toxicity mode to make Viper a true menace. And listen, you do run into those players, occasionally, and it's terrifying when you do, but it's just not going to happen often. Her pick rates reflect this status really well, with one weird exception. Viper's pick rate in recent tournaments for the VCT have stayed around the 4% region overall, but in terms of map-specific pick rates, both EU and NA seem to favor Viper picks on Icebox of all maps, which is really interesting to me. This is something that I hadn't really picked up on until I started diving through the stats for this list. In the EU Challenger Stage 2, Viper was picked 76% of the time on Icebox, which was played 37 times total, so 28 Viper picks for Icebox in this tournament. And in North America, it's a more measured but still surprising 20% pick rate over the same 37 possible Icebox games. So I must be missing something here about this Viper Icebox meta. I'll have to look into this and see if I can find some of those VODs, because the VCT is an annoying tournament to watch if nothing else. But yeah, Icebox aside, 4% overall pick rate sounds about right for the pros, and in regular ranked it's not much better, around 1.5 to 2%. Overall, I just don't know what to do about Viper. I don't know how you keep her current kit and make her worth using over the staple controllers. And with Astra now in the mix as well, I think Viper is doomed to be just this one-trick agent, where when you see her, you get rolled, but that happens only like 1 out of every 100 games. We have arrived at our next stop, the B tier. B tier agents can be more of a map or team specific specialist. They aren't bad agents in any way, but they have more niche roles and tend to operate those niches very efficiently, even though they are limited. Our first B tier agent is so shocking to me if we were to even rewind like 2 months ago, and it's Cypher. Cypher really isn't any worse than he used to be. I mean, the nerfs he got a while back to his traps weren't even that bad in the grand scheme of things, and it seemed to not even affect Cypher's monumental impact one bit. But just as the meta evolved and the game has gotten a bit faster and more aggressive, Cypher has kind of slowly gone down in value because of how much of a detriment he can be on the attacking side. There are just very valuable playstyles that make use of Sova and 500 duelists instead of the more stall-oriented cores of like the first Strike era, you know, that Sova, Cypher, Sage, Omen, Jet era. It is pretty much way dead at this point. This doesn't mean that Cypher is at all bad. His pick rates are still fantastic, hovering in the 40% range through previous tournaments, and a fairly respectable 5 to 12% pick rate across the ranks in competitive. Cypher does what Cypher has done since launch: spoil pushes, delay enemies, and be absolutely annoying. It's just the meta has gone away from having him on like 97% of teams in the pros and like 50% of teams in ranked, which is kind of refreshing to me because man, Cypher can be annoying sometimes. Our next B tier agent is really much the same. In fact, you'll notice something by the end of the B tier, I promise. Killjoy, much like Cypher, has just been a victim of the aggressive turn in the meta as well, as honestly being hit a bit harder by her nerfs than other agents thus far in Valorant's tricky balance game. It forces Killjoy to be far less mobile on the map on defense than in prior metas, and it's pretty much turned her into a dedicated side anchor, while the other Sentinels can be more fluid and responsive overall. This overall has made Killjoy more niche and specialized, but it's still a very valuable piece in the puzzle for many teams. Killjoy has maintained a respectable status in the pro scene, seen around 40% and 58% pick rates in North America and Europe respectively. In normal competitive, she hovers in the 10% pick range, with a weird outlier in Immortal level play, where currently she's being picked around 25% of the time, but I would consider that a deviation from the norm and probably just inflated by the recency of this new season. Overall, Killjoy has a fair claim at best sentinel in the game status, but only goes down in overall viability by being dropped a lot of the time for these more aggressive cores that tend to take a controller, Sova, as the support core, and which is something we'll touch on more in a bit. Finally, our last B tier agent is Sage, and yes, that means all sentinels are in the B tier. They're all great, but not required in the current meta at all. Sage is basically the tale of two playstyles. Shotgun Sage is godly and competitive, especially solo queue, but goes way down in efficacy at the pro level. Even then, she's maintained respectable play levels and proven very valuable on certain maps like Split and Icebox. Also, a weird thing to note, NA pros seem to really not like Sage, showing a 17% pick rate on average, but EU values her a lot higher at around 40% in the last Challengers event. But the map value is pretty much the same. You play Sage on Split and Icebox as a rule, and you take her rarely on the other maps. What else can really be said about Sage at this point? If you are a shoddy god or the lord of the weird wall placements, then you can make Sage her same old nightmare. Her heal and revive are never without value, and her slow is an eternal annoyance. I love Sage, and I think she's perfectly balanced as of now, and it's the shotguns that are broken, not her. Climbing up to the A tier, we have the agents who are really good, but ultimately fail to crack into the S tier due to being slightly outdone by those above them. Unquestionably better than the B through D tiers, A agents can be great off-meta picks when piloted correctly. Our first A tier agent is the man who haunts my dreams. The redhead with the robot arms here to ruin our retinas, it's Breach. Now, Breach has fallen out of S tier this time around, and is once again a byproduct of the duelist-centric nature of Valorant right now. Breach is amazing when he's played, there's no doubt. He has the potential to be the most infuriating thing known to man, and illegal in at least 5 countries, 2 Canadian provinces, and 35 US states. But at the end of the day, what Breach specializes in is annoyance. It's hard to get anything out of it after the fact unless hard entering on his flashes to capitalize on those opportunities, especially outside of coordinated pro play. That's the only thing that still holds Breach back from truly being the god of simulation in my opinion. I think his highly tactical nature really reflects in his pro pick rates. The slower EU playstyles value Breach more with around a 35% pick rate recently, and in the land of the Wardells and the he's on me shot calling, we see a lower, around 14% pick rate. In the barren wasteland that is solo queue, Breach certainly goes down in value exponentially, chilling in the 5% range on aggregate. Our next A tier agent continues the old man with strong facial hair dynamics with my good old boy Brimstone. Brimstone is an interesting case at this point. I honestly think he's just as valuable as Omen in the controller metagame, and in certain cases absolutely game-changing with his ultimate and stim packs. I think what holds Brimstone down and keeps Omen up, and we'll talk about this more soon, is that Omen is just easier to use, especially without having to interrupt his flow too much. His smokes are easy to navigate, and you of course have the smoke world mode to long toss, or you can toggle on the regular point of view for quick tossing smokes. It's just more fluid than using Brimstone's UI, placing and then deploying the smokes. It makes Brim less able to react with smokes and forced to use other aspects of his kit instead. That means that Brim can be better in dedicated setups, but it's harder to make stuff happen kind of spur of the moment. Overall, the pro scene still takes Omen the majority of the time, leaving Brim with a meager pick rate in NA of 12% and 22% in EU. Brim sees about the same representation in matchmaking as well, but let's be honest, all you Jet and Arena Instalock players don't care what controller gets picked, as long as someone takes the job from you. Our last A tier pick is pretty much the biggest hot take in this video, and it's Astra. Definitely hasn't been fully understood or figured out, but I thought it'd be weird to not place her on this list, so I hopped on, played a few games, got some time learning her playstyle, then consulted some experts on the issue. Astra is one of the most unique agents in Valorant, and she has great side anchor potential on defense, and I really liked being able to fully lay out my attack strategies ahead of time and deploy them as they go. It's very unique and really engaging. My biggest issue thus far with Astra is that she's very macro heavy. You spend a lot of time footsing with her abilities and sitting in her Astra form, and that makes you very exploitable if you can get aggressive on Astras on defense or disrupt their attacking strategies. Just like Brimstone and Viper, Astra will lose out to Omen because she can't be super reactive and on the move and still do setups. She needs cover and she needs time to get her strats set up. Her ultimate is a weird one as well because it's really kind of hard to place how you want, at least in my limited playtime, it might be on me. I really do think Astra has a cool niche overall, and she feels a lot like a Sentinel to me more than a controller, especially on defense. She currently strikes me as better and more valuable than our B through D agents, but I would say fairly even in terms of team value with our A agents as of right now. Time will tell, and Astra is definitely guaranteed to move the next time we do one of these, either up or down. We just don't know yet. Alright, we've talked a whole lot of stuff thus far, and we're here at last. The cream of the crop, of the tippity top, the S tier. S-tier agents are comprised of the best in-class agents, and most of them are either insta-locks every time, or seen on the vast majority of team compositions. If you don't have a main, start at S-tier, pick an agent you think you like, and get going. It's a good place to start. Our first S-tier agent is Reyna, and there's not much to be said here. Reyna is still cooking and booking despite her recent nerfs. If anything, she's just kind of evolved and adapted. Reyna's gone from a god tier, unstoppable carry and unholy lurk to quite possibly the best entry agent in the game. Aggression is the name of the same old game with Reyna. Take advantage of that new assist system for orbs and let the Reyna death machine go wild. In terms of pro play, Reyna is down slightly in North America, and frankly she's never really established huge popularity outside of North America, except for the screams of the world. So she's chilling at around 40% in NA, and around 70% in EU. But as we all know, Reyna is the matchmaking hero we all needed. She's always top 5, picked in every ranked, and she explodes to over 35% pick rate in the solo duo queue environment of Immortal Plus. It just makes sense for that metagame. There's nothing else to say here. Reyna has taken a small step back overall, but her worst day is colossally better than most agents' best day. Our next S-tier agent is by far the best secondary duelist in the game. Never the main carry, never the bride, always the bridesmaid, but undeniably the best entry fragger in Valorant. Phoenix is always valuable, always puts in work. Great ultimate, fantastic utility, healing, and vision denial, as well as flashes. Phoenix is the complete kit while remaining very well balanced. There's a big skill gap to making Phoenix scary, and it's easy to have little impact with him. I consider Phoenix to be the best balanced agent in the game because of this. In terms of pick rate, what's really interesting is that North America plays a lot of Phoenix, but he goes way down outside of this region, from 38% to 10%, and in terms of regular competitive, he hovers in that 6 to 10% range and goes up in pick rate as you climb the ranks. But don't let that fool you, Phoenix is terrifying. There's just nothing else to say, man. Phoenix has done the same thing since the beta, and over time people have just realized how damn valuable that role he fills is. I love Phoenix, and I called it months ago that Phoenix would climb to the S tier, and he's been here for a while, and it just feels good to see my boy do it. Our next S tier agent needs no introduction as well. Sova is basically the best non-controller support in the game. He's been it for some time, and he's basically the best Ascent agent in the game. But don't let that fool you, the only real bad map for Sova is Split, and he's never played on it as a result. But every other map sans Icebox sees an 80 to 95% pick rate for Sova at the pro level. If you play Haven, Ascent, or Bind, you are very likely at higher ranks and virtually guaranteed at the pro level to see 1 or 2 Sovas. His value is just immeasurable in that regard. Scouting, the ability to flush enemies with shock darts, and drones, an ultimate that we all thought was going to be bad at launch turned one of the nastiest abilities in the game. I mean this absolutely. The old 97% pick rates we used to see from Cypher and Sage, we would see from Sova now if he didn't absolutely suck on Split. And everyone didn't hate Icebox as well. No pick rates here, there's no need to justify Sova's greatness. If you hate playing duelists or controllers, then learn how to play Sova, dodge Split like the plague, and it'll serve you well no matter what. Moving up from the A tier previously and basically replacing Breach is Raze. Raze is here because of the rise of the Bucky and the Judge, as well as her being the purest example of a map specialist in Valorant. Raze is almost mandatory on Bind and Split and abuses her kit to the fullest in those environments. Her ability to use satchel boosting to make shotguns terrifying on both offense and defense alike makes her basically the new iteration of Judge Jet from the past. Just this time, she's flying in at Mach 1 to nuke your kneecaps as opposed to flying out at Mach 1 after nuking your kneecaps. Key difference. Raze overall has around a 40% pick rate in the pros, but that's because you rarely see her elsewhere outside of her specialist maps, but she's played at near 90% on those 2 maps. Similar story in competitive, but overall she suffers a pick rate like Phoenix because solo queue just values Reyna and Jet much more. Raze is amazing, and she's so good at what she abuses that she really earned this S tier placement despite being a map 1 trick. Nothing can be said about our last S tier agent that hasn't already been said ad nauseum. Omen is unquestionably still the best controller in the game. He's mobile, he's got movement abilities for outplay potential, a still fantastic stun, rechargeable smokes for drawn out rounds. He's just perfect. Here's the thing, I could explain more about what makes Omen fantastic, but the thing that makes it speak for itself is that the 2-man core seen on like 80% of teams right now at the pro level is Sova and Omen. Add on your duelist and your flavor pick and move on. Omen is untouchable in this role, and is only rarely replaced by Brimstone, and I honestly don't even see Astra coming for that crown anytime soon. Omen never lets us down and is never an unwanted pick at any level of play. Omen is the perfect support. With all of that being said, we've ranked all but one agent. As with our previous list, there is only one overpowered agent in Valorant, and it's the same one that's been on top for so long now. It's Jett. Jett will always be the first pick duelist in any serious game. She's the favorite of Smurfs, one tricks, operator fanatics, and weebs everywhere. She's the best duelist at the pro level. She's the best duelist at Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Diamond, Immortal, Radiant. She's good at any time of the day on any map. She's like the 3 meals, you need them every single day. She's the water of Valorant, you need her to survive. There's no nuance or anything really to say at all here. If you were an operator player, you play Jett. If you are cracked on the keys and flicking everybody with that Prime Vandal, you're probably playing Jett. If you want one of the best ultimates that somehow still only has a 6 charge cost, lasts the entire round with no drawback if you can just click heads with your 8 knives, or 6, or whatever it is, I don't even care at this point. Jett's ultimate is so busted. The worst part is that Jett doesn't have her OP ult smokes either. She's all things considered relatively balanced outside of that ultimate. It's just what she does can't be replicated. No one else has instant peel, verticality, a damage dealing ultimate, and smokes. No one has all of that, except Jett. Jett is literally the perfect agent right now, and I don't know how or even if we should nerf her again. Any game where your team doesn't have Jett is a team playing at below its best capacity, and that's why she's overpowered. Whew, that was a lot to get through. Like I said in our question of the day, let me know your own tier list in those comments down below. Not much else to say here. I'm tired, my voice hurts. Can we get some love from my man Mido, who edited this video on short notice to get it to you guys as soon as we could. Our editors are unsung heroes on this channel, and we couldn't do it without them. Let me see that love down below, and while you are down there, make sure to like the video and subscribe as well for more news and guides like this, with one goal in mind, helping you become a better player. We here at SkillCapped would like to thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.